All good things must come to an end. And while it had been fairly fun to do their best impressions at sledding, it was time to head for home. Jarix was no longer making it up the hill at quite so sprightly a pace, and even Tom could tell that the last couple meters of his tail were stiff as a board. The dragon set a far more relaxed pace this time around, through the ankle-deep snow. It was more of a canter than a gallop, but they were still covering distance quickly. Dashing through the snow, as one might say. Kieran was keeping warm well enough, but Tom did need to actually work a little from time to time to keep his own toes from freezing. In doing so, he had committed the eternal sin of working up a sweat whilst it was freezing, but it wasn't like warmth was far away, so he was hardly going to turn into an icicle for his mistake. So, this is it then? Last walk before the mother of all naps?
I suppose so, yes. No running off while I am gone, the dragon replied in a bittersweet tone.
I would never. I have to be back here when Tigwan comes back, Tom joked, taking the time to once more watch the smooth and undisturbed snowy landscape glide on by.
Wow, thank you. Some Drake comes along and lets you walk on his face and suddenly he's the favourite. Is that how it works?
Jarix fired back, playing along. Oh, don't be like your mother. Always so jealous that she isn't the centre of attention.
Rather, she doesn't get what she wants. She couldn't care less for attention, I think, though she does not mind the parades.
I can believe that. Must be quite the sight. Dragons in armour, trotting down the streets and all that. Maybe one day we could have some wheels join in.
What, you want to bring your little cart thingy? I'll try not to obstruct the view.
Hey, don't hurt Polaris's feelings. She's sensitive, Tom said sarcastically. He did wonder if it would start in spring, though. Should probably bring the battery inside, shouldn't I?
If it's a she, then she sleeps more than me.
I know, an impressive feat. So where are you going to pick? Tom questioned, as they moved back inside the more built-up area, Jarix slowing to a walk.
Up by the base of the keep, I think. It's hardly a great spot, but it will do. You better keep the walls off, or I'll be really pissed in spring.
Well, if they can smell what happened to the last one who swung by, I don't think that should be a problem, Tom joked, as he looked around at the snow-covered buildings, as the dragon made his way to the base of the outcropping. His eyes eventually landed on the latest addition to Bismarti Keep. Hey, Jarix, why not sleep in the warehouse? The dragon came to a stop and turned to look at the large box of a building, the gently sloped roof having gathered a nice pristine layer already.
Is there room?
The dragon questioned, his gaze turning to meet Tom's. Should be. If not, we'll just move some things around. Is it like, what, cold enough?
If you don't go lighting fires in there, it should be fine.
And you won't be disturbed when we go to fetch something? I know we put most of the firewood in there.
You could walk on my tail and I probably wouldn't even notice. But maybe don't stack boxes on my back. I might shift from time to time.
I mean, that sounds quite a bit smarter then. We can shut the door and everything.
What a luxury,
the dragon agreed, as he turned towards the new destination and started walking. In there you won't get snow on you either, Kieran added joyfully. It is all wet and cold.
That is true. It is not quite a cave, but at least I'm not showing with a drill.
Even if she fit, I doubt we'd let her in here after Tigwan.
Good. I'm sure she farts in her sleep,
the dragon replied with a chuckle, coming to a stop before the main doors and lowering down a little.
Open the doors, would you? My claws are stiff already.
Can do, Tom replied, sliding on off down into the snow with a grace he could never manage back home. He was really getting rather used to the gravity around this place, and it was much more fun when he wasn't bringing those damn weights along. Kieran still shifted inside the jacket, and scrambled around a little to get back his purchase, eventually sticking his head out, as Tom worked the big metal latch before opening the barn doors wide. They all looked inside, and there was indeed quite a bit of room left over, even if a few boxes needed to be moved around to make room. Why didn't we think of this? Tom questioned, honestly not sure how it hadn't crossed their minds.
Too much work, I suppose. You aren't the only one with a long day. That, and I have been sleeping a lot.
Fair enough, I suppose. Either way, let's get to it. You are going to have to help a bit.
Yes, I will try.
Why not get others to come help? They put it all down here. I saw it. Kieran spoke up, though not seeming keen to help out himself. I suppose with some thick clothes on, they could be down here for a bit. And there is Rachuk, of course, Tom agreed, rather liking the idea of not having to do it all by himself, even if he would have Jarek's help for the heavier things.
Well, they should be down in a bit, at least I hope so. Normally you go say your well wishes to any dragon turning in for the winter, you know. Thanks for the help all year, keeping us safe, that sort of thing.
Didn't see many going to say goodnight to a drill, Tom countered, though not decisively. He could well imagine why the Black Dragon would have had a lonely settling in. If he remembered right, only Maiko and Paulin had bothered to go down there. Well, aside from Fengi, of course. And if Fengi was there, Sapphire had probably been too. The Silvered Huntress did seem to be looking out for the younger one, which was good. Fengi needed all the help she could get, and Tom was about as well versed in girls' talk as he was in deep-water crochet.
Would you say thank you for anything to her?
I mean, she made a pretty good digger.
Good diggers don't moan all day long now, do they?
Careful now. I do seem to remember a fair bit of complaining over the last couple of months.
That's different. I'm not an arsehole.
Well, you have certainly made great improvements. Remember when you were going on about how I was yours? Like you thought you could own my ass? Tom carried on, as he looked back up at the keep towering above them like a cliff face. Think you can shout at them to come down here and help?
What? Miss out on your complaining?
You got him a gift, Saf? Fengi questioned, as the pair of them helped each other with the heavier winter coats. They didn't have their own coats, as it wasn't often you needed them. But there were definitely some nice ones and some not-so-nice ones. Saf and Fengi had of course secured a pair of rather lovely wolf-furred-lined ones made many years ago. Should I have? I heard some of the guys say they were bringing him something or other. They said it was tradition. We didn't do that back at Vulture. Then again, we weren't really known for being generous. I don't remember you talking much about any dragons where you grew up. It wasn't like it matters a whole lot, not for a little girl at least. She was a bit of an ass. I think she knew people didn't like her much for all the food she ate. People tend to be like that when they go to bed still hungry. I suppose so. Thank the gods we got plenty of hunting ground out here. Indeed. Ain't much use having 50 flyers out searching for deer if there are only 5 deer. I heard the Huntress talk about how they almost spent more time herding the flocks so they would stay on our turf than they did actually bringing any of them home. Yeah. Right, you're good, Fengi replied, giving Sapphire a slap on the shoulder. They were not going to be outside for very long, but it was still quite a bit more comfortable to have some proper clothes on. Bare feet in snow was just asking for something bad to happen as well. Thanks, Fengi. Let's go. As they stepped out of the storeroom where they had snagged the nice coats, the others were slowly making their way down in various kinds of winter wear. Herron came trudging by, giving them a surprised glance. He was just wearing his armor with a pair of what looked like long-necked scarves wrapped around his feet. A half-hearted job in his usual fashion. You planning on sleeping down there with him? He questioned in good humor, as he carried on walking, using the spear as a walking stick. No, sleeping on the job is your way, Herron, Fengi retorted, as she shook her head a little, she and Sapphire following the guard. This ain't no job. Strictly voluntary. Rachuk said so himself. Did someone ask if they could avoid going? Yeah, I did. Just wanted to know. What? You don't want to say goodnight to Jarek's? I'm going, ain't I? I just wanted to know. I can respect a guy who tries to do as little as possible. Shame Tom got him, convinced he has to work and stuff now. Oh, please. You might be a little lazy at times, but you're not that scared of a bit of work. Nah, girl. I'm just, more interested in enjoying things while they are happening, you know? Herron, are you quite all right? Sapphire questioned, tilting her head. You seem a little off. Normally he wasn't quite this callous about the at times touchy subject of his work ethic. "Oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm very good." "You seem a little different. Have you been drinking?" Nah, girl. I'm just relaxing. That's all." Fengi took in a deep sniff, which was always a risky business inside the keep, especially the lower levels. Not everything down here smelled like flower fields after all. "You smell funny. What is that?" "Oh, don't worry about that. Unless you want some," Herron replied, looking back at them with a grin on his face. He pulled out a simple wooden pipe and tapped it against the side of his helmet, before a moment of realization hit his face. "Oh, actually, you know Unkai?" "Yeah, I know Unkai," Fengi replied, slowly, in at least some level of disbelief. Sapphire couldn't really blame her for that. "If you could, make him believe this isn't such a bad thing, I think it could help him relax a lot, you know? He's been all snappy and tense for the last while. It's gotten better, but it can't hurt, right? Get him to chill out all the way." "I'll consider it," Fengi yielded, sounding rather unsure she would follow through on the offer. "You're the best, Fen. Oh, and it might help you too, you know. If ever you feel like not sleeping or like you're gonna kill everyone for being dumb or something, free of charge. Just bring snacks." "Right. Thanks, Herron." Sapphire got the distinct impression Fengi was, in fact, not overly thrilled by the offer. She wouldn't be lying if she wasn't considering if it might be a good idea herself. Though more likely, it would have been a good idea a month ago. Still might help with any bad memories in one's sleep. They carried on down the stairs, a few more souls joining the procession more through convenience than any ritual or precedence. They were just going to say goodbye to a friend for a while. When the door to the outside was opened, they all shied away from the cold for a moment, as a gust carried the freezing air inside. But it was, as always, best to just get the uncomfortable part over with, and so out they went. Standing on the ledge of the rock looking out over the keep's holdings, they saw no dragon at first. "He can't already be covered in snow, right?" Sapphire questioned, as Fengi started making her way around the keep to see if he had settled in on the other side. "Where are you going, Fen?" Herron questioned, the guard not having stopped, unlike the rest of them. He was just heading on down the stairs right away. "To see if he's on this side. It's easier to see from up here." Herron stopped for a moment to consider the wisdom of the younger Huntress. His face remained one of confusion. "But he's in the warehouse." "But don't we need the warehouse for all sorts of stuff? We put all the wood in there." "Girl, I don't got a clue, but he went in the warehouse. I think Tshirt helped, make space and stuff." "Right. Naturally. Why didn't I think of that?" Fengi relented, going to follow the guard, who just carried on down the path and stairs cut into the rock. "Oh, it's fine. I get stuff wrong all the time as well." The guard carried on, with a serenity of tone and expression that likely meant he was at least not making fun of her. There were already a fair few footprints in the snow heading down the stairs, and Sapphire tried her best to follow in said footprints. The few times she risked setting foot into some fresh virgin snow, the crunching sent shivers running up her spine bad enough she almost wanted to hop onto Fengi's back. Perhaps Herron would have been a wiser target. It didn't seem like he was in any sort of state to complain. Then again, he likely wasn't in a state to remain upright either, even with his improvised walking stick. When they made it to the warehouse doors, they were shut, likely to keep the cold wind out, even if the place wasn't in any way heated. Herron waddled on up and knocked as Seth and Fengi, as well as Rolf and Waperna, who had caught up on the way down, hauled on the doors. They gently slid open on their brand new hinges, revealing quite the mess before Herron ever got a reply from inside. "What in the... Tom?" Sapphire broke out, seeing how all the boxes they had so carefully sorted and stacked had been moved to one side in big piles. What? The human questioned, looking up from his rather comfortable spot sitting on a small crate, with a far larger one serving as a backrest. We spent so long putting everything where it was supposed to go. Oh. He looked to the brand new stacks which he and Rachuk had likely created, though judging by the height, Jarek's had assisted. Well, now it's more efficient. What are you going to do if you want to get that one up there? Call for Jarek's? What if it falls down? Why would it fall down? It's so high it might fall up instead. Herron chuckled, earning a fair few curious glances. Rachuk seemed a little more clued in on what was going on, and he didn't seem overly thrilled, though he did not say anything for now. Herron just started giggling at all of the attention. That was a good one.
Is he quite all right?
Jarek's questioned, inspecting the guard a little more closely. The dragon had curled up rather tightly to fit in on the newly cleared floor space, ready to hide his head under a wing when the time finally came. Jarek's, I'm great. Not great like you or Tom, but like, I'm feeling great. The dragon just stared as Sapphire sighed.
Even the cold doesn't seem to bother him much.
Oh no, like, the scars aren't really working. My feet are cold. Oh, and my tail. Glancing down, the guard had indeed not covered his tail in anything at all. His wings were exposed as well, but at least he had tucked them in tight. Sapphire stepped up, still not thrilled, and grabbed his tail, which caused him to start slowly turning around to see what was going on, though without any kind of urgency. There, Saf declared, sticking the top of his tail up onto the Brigadine to hopefully keep the tip warm. A little better. Ah, thanks, Saf. Now I can feel how cold it is.
Herron, do you think I can have some of whatever you are having right now?
Jarvis questioned, lowering his head down and having a sniff as well. Sure, but like, might need a bigger pipe, you know.
I'll ask Jelena. Apparently she's a pothead too, Tom joked, which earned him a fair few glances.
Oh, forget I said that. Unlikely, Seth retorted, as she tried to make sense of what pots had to do with any of this. Perhaps it was some sort of plant which grew in plant pots. And how the hell Tom might know, yet they had never seen the Inquisitor act like strange or... On second thought, actually... Tom, what do you mean with that? Oh, nothing. Do you mean to say that Jelena was... what is the word? High as a kite when she was here? Is that why she was seeing things? Did she drug you and that was why you started to speak to ghosts? Which we then had to be? Fenki added, catching on to what Sapphire was getting at. What? No. I was, well, I don't know what I was, but I wasn't on drugs. Nor was she. Right. Just... it would certainly explain a lot. Sapphire carried on, Fengi and soon most of the others nodding in agreement. Only Herron refrained, looking like he was thinking hard. No, she just used a little of... well, that, Tom explained, gesturing at Herron, to help calm her nerves later. Herron looked up at the human, face still one of utter confusion. Does that mean I have to talk to my dad too? No, Herron, you don't have to talk to any, I presume, dead people. I don't know, man. Ain't seen him in years. That would be a fucked up way to find out. In that case, I'm sure he is alive and well. Dude, he don't got no legs no more. He ain't well. Right. The human seemed to just throw in the towel on that discussion. Sapphire couldn't blame him. I do wonder if I could have a chat with my mum. Tell her I finally managed to make a beer worth drinking, Ralph added, seeming quite unbothered by it all. She would never believe you, Wiperna countered, earning a glare from her husband. Hey, we tried your family recipe too. It was even worse, Ralph retorted. Only to those with no taste. By the gods, you flavoured it with thornbrush. It was always going to be as harsh as a lone mother of 12. Wiperna just rolled her eyes and crossed her arms, clearly disinterested in replying to that. It was true, though. Sapphire remembered the horror of the spring celebrations, where they discovered that the Thorn Ale was all they had left in stock. Most people went to bed sober that day. Anyway, should we close the door? Finky questioned, standing by the door expectantly. Nah, leave it open. More are coming, Tom replied, leaning back on his improvised seat. Well, in that case... Finky made her way further inside, Sapphire following along. The wind wasn't blowing much, but even a little could easily be felt, even wearing the thick pelt coats. Aren't we supposed to wish you well for the winter, or something? Finky questioned, looking towards the dragon.
Well, yes. In the Guard we normally go over all the things we have accomplished during the year. I know some like to pray together for a good year next year.
Phew. We are going to be here for a while then, Finky replied, as she stretched the back of her neck, looking towards the door to see if the rest would hurry up already. I brought you a gift. That's what we always did. Herron spoke up, much to everyone's surprise. The guard reached into a pouch on his belt and produced a small wooden figurine. It's Tula. Can you tell? He held it up and the dragon inspected it more closely.
I suppose? Thank you.
No worries, man. Don't get much to do sitting up in the tower. Keeps me from sleeping.
Oh? Do we need to make another motor? Is that what you were saying?
Tom jested, laughing at his own joke. Herron turned to stare at the human, possibly terrified, but it was hard to tell with the sedated expression he wore. No, you see, I bought this, actually.
Really? You paid money for that? I'm gonna need to have a word with my dad. That's not okay.
Jarex replied in a mock-serious voice. Herron turned back to the dragon once more, mind clearly not quite keeping up. Okay? They all chuckled a bit as Jarex shook his head.
Thank you. It is very nice. Would you put it on that box over there?
He gestured with his head towards a lone box off to his side a little. Seemed quite fitting to be used as a table. Or perhaps an altar now, Sapphire guessed. The guard complied just as more faces started entering. Everyone greeting the dragon, then each other. Nothing formal. It wasn't like it had been long since last they saw each other. Only hours in most cases. None of the kids had come along, leaving Kieran the sole youngling present. Right now it seemed like all the playing had taken its toll, and he was sleeping quietly. Either that or he was just nuzzled in far too comfortably.
Oh my, it is starting to get a little crowded in here,
Jarex remarked, as Essie and Dakota made their entrance, closing the door behind them at last. Notably, there was no sight of the Lord or Lady, nor Paulin, but that was less surprising. Well, yes, this was not quite the intention after all, Dakota answered, though she did not seem cross in the least. I apologize, but I shall have to give you the best wishes of my mother and father. It is a bit cold for them to be going outside.
Oh, it's fine. Wish them well in return.
I shall do so. I suppose you are far safer in here, but my mother insisted on this, so we best get to it while we still have our tails. Dakota pulled out a small satchel, stepping forwards as she reached inside, pulling out some incense sticks and a little block to stand them in. Gather around, everyone. We shall pray for a swift winter, as well as for Jarex's protection. Ah, I suppose that makes some sense. It wasn't often they gave proper prayer to the gods, not outside of the various preordained occasions, like the last hunt or the summer solstice. One shouldn't pester the gods for too many favors, lest you be turned away when you truly need them.
Oh, who are we praying to?
The dragon questioned, leaning back a little on his side to get more comfortable. Calador, we have already sought the protection of Nalk. Hopefully she shall smile upon us.
Ah, yes, I already have Tula covered,
the dragon replied, nodding to the small figure set atop the crate. Dakota did spirit a confused glance before getting back to the task at hand, kneeling before the dragon and setting out the incense and the little block. Saf raised an iridge, waiting to see how she intended on lighting them, and a smile crossed her face as one of Tom's lighters was produced from a pocket in her coat, and with trivial ease, the sticks were lit. Quite fitting, I suppose. Tom's help even in this? Sapphire mused to herself, as Dakota placed her hands on her thighs, closing her eyes and lowering her head. Callinger was the first to replicate the stance, kneeling down on both knees as well, the rest of the group calmly mimicking. Herron did have to get dragged down by Unkai, and it took Tom a moment to work out if he should join in. A quick reprimand to the side of his thigh from an already kneeling Jackie lifted his confusion, and he scurried down from his comfy box and knelt. Kalidor, Lord of Light and Healing, Father of our kind, Dakota began, those who could remember joining in the prayer. It had been a while when Saf was rather rusty, but she could mumble along well enough. I have prayed to you many times this year, and I do apologize, but for the sake of our people, both near and far, I must beseech you. Let us make it through this winter unscathed, protected by your purity and your light. Heal any wounds we suffer in your service, and protect us from the frost and the darkness of the long nights. We plead of you, protect young Jarex as he slumbers, as we may soon too slumber, for his work is far from done. We shall labor in your service to earn your divine protection. This we can promise. Blessed be our Lord of Light. Blessed be our Lord of Light, the room echoed as silence fell. Sapphire knew everyone was supposed to give their own prayers now, if they so saw fit. In silence, of course. There was little need to share what you wished for, or what you feared most. Perhaps you prayed for children, food on the table, the safekeeping of your loved ones, or simply success in life. She didn't really know what she wanted to ask for. There were so many options. So much they would need help with. Lord of Light, I will only ask for one thing. Let us all still be breathing in a year. That'll do. We're not quite ready to come say hello yet.